Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to do a short video on the nibblers that I bought because it was my fault. I ended up being short sheeted, so the tin that turned up was just dented and starting to rust through. It's from a company in Australia called Lysat, which I was very disappointed with. As I said back then, be careful as tiny house builders because our sheets are small. These are only 1550. We do tend, they think it's a bit of a license to throw in the offcuts. So do check them when they get them. So I sent back 7 accidentally and got 6 returned. So this is actually a cover sheet that'll barely pass. It's got a lot of marks and that through it, but I'm just going to touch them up with little artist paintbrush and hopefully it'll pass because I just don't have the time to waste waiting for another sheet to come. So I went out and bought a nibbler from Trade Tools, and I had seen them online, and this is what came. It's probably me with my weak left hand, but I couldn't get it to do anything reasonable. And I think the issue for me is the fact that I've practiced with my hand tim snip, aviation snips, and I'm quite good with those, and they're very neat. So this was just too rough. You know, it'll probably be good when I need to cut out the whirlybirds for some ventilation in the flat roof tiny house. But for now, it just wasn't good enough. So also the same day, this is quite heavy. But it was the smallest one that the Renegade had, and it took me a little bit of practice to actually use it. It comes out of the box with the cutter, the straight cutter, at the front here, and I tried and I practiced. I'll come over and show you some of my practicing. I did a fair bit of practicing with it, and yeah, I just couldn't get, you can see this one, I think this was one of my first ones, I just couldn't get a straight cut on it. It's probably me, too wobbly, but yeah, I was so disappointed. I thought I'd actually have to go and order a new sheet, but have lots of practice. And then I watched a couple of YouTube videos, and I got this one. I think I did late yesterday afternoon with the guide. When I say guide, it's just a board that I've put across. Make sure it's quite thin. I ended up putting probably my level, which might be 35-40 mil, but it just got in the road of the actual the actual cutter as the nibbler went down. So yeah, you do need a guide. It's not, I don't know if you can see that, but have a look at this side here where I had the guide on. It's not as good. You get these little, well, I'm going to call them bend overs, dents, that you don't get when you're hand cutting, but it's a necessary evil because there's no way that I can get a set of aviation snips, left, right, straight, or any other in there. So the guide I worked out, this is the line I'm actually going to cut on here. That's where the cutter will be. And then it's 10 mil back, and that should give me a reasonable straight edge. I did practice this probably 2 to 3 times late yesterday afternoon, but it got dark on me, so I didn't finish. So I'm hoping this will go well. If it doesn't, it is also covered by the ridge cap. But if we're actually having to do this for, you know, any other tiny house when we're cutting our tin, yeah, I don't know how well that will actually go. So I've got it well clamped down to the table. I don't need it to move, and I'm just going to stop now because I don't have enough hands, and I'm going to have a go with it. I'll just show you the cutter. The other thing though too with this was I had it on straight, that I was actually pushing the nibbler through this way, but I couldn't see what I was doing, particularly when I was going up. If you have a look here, I was going up and down the ridge. I just couldn't stand in a position that I could see how I was cutting. For me, the guide is not negotiable. I do have to do it. It does make it a little bit more difficult, but at least it's straight and I can hold on to it better. So I've actually got the shift that comes with it, and I'm going to have a go at taking this through, and I think it should be pretty accurate. All right, here goes. Okay, after the cut, not too bad. I'm off in some parts by about, I don't know, 3 or 4, probably a bit more down here, which I don't know if you can see that, but I can actually nibble. I can actually take that off with the straight shears, which I'll do now, but not too bad. Look, it's not ideal if you can get your sheet cut before it is delivered, but sometimes there's little jobs around the tiny houses that we actually can't do, so not too bad. I think where it went wrong here, although that doesn't look too bad, if you could clamp it down fairly tight in the middle here without distorting it. All right, I'm going to do a straight through cut shortly to come all the way through. This is my last sheet on the tiny house. I don't know if you can see that from there, but that's the last, I'm onto the last sheet. Which again, it was a job I never thought that I'd actually have to do, but there's just such a shortage of labour, but also nobody's really interested in doing the tiny houses. It's not worth them even setting up for it. So this is the side that I'm currently working on. Not sure if you can see that. Come around here, and I've got my very, very last sheet to put on, which was a triumph. I've had lost lots of days because of the wind. You can see the wind's got to that sheet. That's just the insulation you're seeing turned up there. And then these scaffold, which I was reluctant to use, these, I'm not sure what you call them, walkway towers or whatever, they've been absolutely wonderful. And I've been pulling the trailer along instead of moving the towers, because once they're set up on my own, they're just too difficult. And even with 2 people, which I paid a guy to come down and help me move them twice, it's just really, really difficult. So the ridge cap is the next major hurdle that will need to be attempted at least, but I'm thinking the ridge cap that I actually bought is not going to be suitable. There's just too much of a pitch on this gable roof tiny house. All right, for you DIY, tiny house DIYers, just have a go. Be safe, but have a go. Also, I have to say about the Nibbler, this is the Renegade Nibbler, which I think is a Trade Tools brand, I'm not sure, but they stock it anyway. Don't go for the bigger one. You really don't need it. I'll just show you I've turned this cutter on the side, and that gave me, as you see, I could see what was going on with it. This is the actual cutter in here, which was a little bit hard to understand. I guess the book that comes with it isn't a book at all. It's just a little pamphlet, and it really doesn't tell you anything. There is a video online about this particular nibbler, but I would suggest that if you want a good job, this also has a rounder over bit, but yes, it, up on a roof, this would be fairly difficult to operate, I would think. If you're going to do a lot of work, I think a battery operated actual nibbler, but these that go in the drill, it was just too rough, and my drill in particular, the battery powered one, it sort of struggled with it, and I just couldn't keep control of it. So yeah, and you can turn it around on both sides, but I don't know if I'll keep it for a bit or what. I just can't see where I'd use it. Yeah, you need something that's really going to cut that tin and cut it well. All right, okay, until next time. See ya, bye. I just want to film this last bit. So this is the Nibbler. I don't know if you can see that, but it's not a very good cut. This is coming, I needed to cut back. This is my last sheet. So it was only 610, and the sheets I think are 820 something. So as you can see, it's pretty rough cut with the Nibbler. That wasn't using a guide, but yeah, it was just very difficult, very fast. I find the Renegade really, really fast. The Renegade corded Nibbler, which is this one here. Yeah, it's just too fast for me. And this